Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Khoj Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The sabad for today is from Sorat Mahalla Panjwa. We continue with the recitations from Sorat Mahalla Panjwa, the fifth Nanak. The recitation. Sorat Mahalla Panjwa. Simar Simar Prabh Bhae Ananda, Dukh Kales Sabbe Nathe. Gun Gavat Tyawat Prabh Apna, Karaj Sagle Sathe. Simar Simar. There is an emphasis on this word simar, which serves as an intensifier, a repeated emphasis. To do this repeatedly. Simar Simar Prabh Bhae Ananda. I was filled with the bliss of the self. Prabh, my essence. Dukh Kales Sabbe Nathe. Dukh, sorrow, pain, and anxiety just took leave and fled. Dukh Kales Sabbe Nathe. Nothing was left behind. Gun Gavat Tyawat Prabh Apna. Gun Gavat Tyawat Prabh Apna. So how did I fix my attention on the Prabh? Through Gun Gavat. Contemplating, assimilating the qualities of the self. Apna karaj sagle santhe. I resolved all of my affairs. I freed myself from anxiety. I was filled with bliss by incorporating the values, the qualities, the virtues of that self. So this is what happens. And when you shift your attention, simar simar, when you shift and redirect your attention from external stressors to internal, to inner awareness. So this repeated emphasis on simar simar isn't about a ritual that you do for a couple of hours in the morning or a few minutes. It's about shifting your focus. So you're not necessarily practicing reciting a name on loop. It means a returning of awareness. So the mind has to turn its attention again and again, simmer, simmer, on the qualities of the divine. It is wisdom, stillness. That is what will cause the real emotional shift. That is what will cause anxiety to lose its grip and clarity to return. Now, to be sure, your problems don't necessarily disappear, but they no longer define you, because you are now acting from a different center, Gurmat instead of Manmat. You find clarity by focusing not on problems but on qualities. It's a shift in perspective. The Rahau, the Guru emphasizes the presence of the divine self everywhere. Jag Jivan Naam Tumara, Gur Pure Dio Upadesa, Japi Pau Jal Par Utara. Now this is the essence of Sikhi. Jag Jivan Naam Tumara. Your wisdom, your name literally, which symbolizes, signifies the wisdom, your, addressing the Jag Jivan, the giver of life. So it comes to us through its wisdom. Jag Jivan Naam Tumhara. And that requires the mediating agency of the Guru. Jag Jivan Naam Tumhara Gur Pure Diyo Upadesa. That perfect Guru, again, not necessarily an external entity, embodiment rather, but it could begin from there. Any enlightened source that will connect you to Gur wisdom within, which in turn becomes the mediating agency, the transformer, the catalyst. So Guru Pure Diyo Upadesa. So for us, the Upadesh or the message is coming from Gurbani in its textual form. So the Sikh is now engaged with the Guru in its textual shape. And by doing that, connecting with the Satgur within. So Upadesh is not the handing out of doctrines. It is teaching you how to connect to that Jagjivan, that aliveness behind everything. And Naam is not just a word that you're constantly repeating, is to come into direct participation with this current that is life-giving. And then what happens? Guru Pure Diyo Upadesa Japi. Jap, realize that, understand that, internalize that. Paujal par utara. Paujal, the ocean of fear, will be overcome. Now we know, those of us who are engaged with Gurbani know that existence is often likened to an ocean of fear. Because fear is really the root of the ego's existence, is it not? So this is a metaphor for saying, how do you overcome that? You overcome that through Naam, through Jap, through realization of that wisdom that we've been speaking about. And the self within is being described here in the third stanza, and the verse after the Rahau. Tu hai mantri, you are the counselor. Suneh Prabh tu hai, you listen, you are the listener. Sab kich karane hara, you are the doer of everything. Now this is quite a concept to grasp. It is the only cause. It is what stirs all action. Tu ape data, you are the giver. Ape pugta, and the one who receives. Kya eh jant vichara? Here, kya eh jant? What is this being, this creature, to presume? We can't be presumptuous about ourselves. We've been likened to a jant, an instrument. So an instrument works through the one that owns the instrument. So think about it. We as instruments are in the hands of the self, the Har, or the Prabh, which lives within. It is the aliveness, the animating creativeness within us. So we require that kind of humility, because here Guru Arjan is reminding us that there is nothing that we are doing that isn't already being held and moved by something deeper. You see, what you're doing on the surface in the material world is being moved by the invisible world. So what else is there left to claim? You can't claim authorship of anything. Now, this is not being passive, but it is dropping the illusion of control. We think we are controlling things. The fact is we are not. This is spiritual realism, because the self is not partial, not fragmented. It is both the source and the receiver. In other words, it exists everywhere. It's connected. The subjective is connected with the objective. The next verse, Kya gun tere aakh vakhani? In such a situation, the question then is, what virtues can I possibly describe? You see, because I am merely an instrument. Kya gun tere aakh vakhani, कीमत कहना ना जाई. I obviously cannot take your measure. Pekh pekh jeeve prabh apna. By seeing and by seeing, literally that's what it means. Jeeve prabh apna. I live in astonishment. Acharaj tumhe vadai. I see, and I am astonished by greatness beyond words. Now, this is the feeling of being awestruck because words have failed you. The self is so immediate, so present that it is overwhelming. This is the wonder, a direct perception of the infinite which cannot be translated into language. Repeated seeing, pek, is simply an idiom to describe contemplative attention. One lives by seeing and not by grasping. The ego grasps. So the mind doesn't survive. It is the inner self that watches. In conclusion, Tar anugrah aap Prabh Swami pat mat kini puri sada sada nanak balihari bancho santa turi. Tar anugrah Prabh Tar anugrah aap Prabh Swami, the master. We are just puppets. The master is grace. When it bestows its grace, pat mat kini puri, it restores to us our dignity and wisdom and understanding. What that means is it makes us whole. This is a wholesomeness. We are fragmented. We think we are separate doers of things. That is what has to change. So this is about restoration. Nothing has been achieved but received, grace, and with it comes your dignity and clarity. Things are now in alignment, and the result is reverence. Sada sada nanak balihari. You see, when this compassion is received, the response is sada sada nanak balihari, to be beholden, to be in submission. Bacho santa turi, the dust of the feet of evolved company. Santa turi is a reference, plural reference to the Guru principle. I long for the dust of the santan. This is not self-negation, but humility. So the path is downward, not upward in social status, but downward in concern, self-concern. To walk lightly and to walk with awe, and then to relish the rapture of being alive. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.